Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss in Internet Shitlords, and today I'm doing a long-awaited review where I'm going to be reviewing Barrows and Borderlands. Now this is something that I talked about with the creator Matthew Tapp on one of the RPG Pundit Encounter live streams. So if you go into the RPG Pundit Encounter playlist, you're likely to find it there, and you can get more information than, well, some more information you're not going to be told here, but here we're going to do a deep dive on the first of the various volumes of what comes with this product. And you will, if you've watched that show, the Pundit Encounter show with him, you'll know that I was very enthused, very interested. I think this is a really, really great product. I've heard also that right now there is like a bundle that's going on where you can get like Tawnisborg and Barrows and Borderlands and one other thing that I forget now. That there's one of those going on that I don't remember what the third product was, but I know it was also a good one. So you might want to look into that. In any case, Barrows and Borderlands, you can see here, just putting it in a size comparison, it's the same height as the Gonzo Fantasy Companion. Obviously not as large, but this is done in a style that is meant to very clearly be an homage to the original D&D box set. And this particular booklet is 61 pages long, if you include the 2-page open gaming license, but there you go. And it is a weird science fantasy old school style role-playing game set in a dark radioactive wasteland of magic, black powder, and dragons. So it has the homage element to old D&D, but it's got a much more gonzo feel. In fact, the Gonzo Fantasy Companion here, which is full of weird and wacky stuff, including mutants and things like that, and intelligent animals and weird magic and all weird items and high-tech relics and all that sort of thing, would be a great combo with Barrows and Borderlands. Cults of Chaos would probably also have its own place there, in that there's also a lot of weird, sinister magic involved, and you could easily modify that. Last Vikings, not so much, but I've got it there because it's my latest big book. And you guys should totally check it out if you haven't yet. Last Vikings is an excellent campaign source book that you can use with pretty much any OSR system, though it's obviously made for Baptism of Fire. And it is the most authentic version of the kind of what the Scandinavian people actually believed was the way the world worked, magic worked, the real monsters, the real magic that they used, all that sort of stuff. And it's an excellent campaign for you to run if you want to play Vikings that are working as mercenaries or as literal raiders throughout the North and Baltic seas. So it's well worth checking out. It's sold really well so far, and I hope that if you haven't picked it up yet, you should think about doing so, because you're going to like it. If you like Vikings, you'll like The Last Vikings best. All right, getting to the topic here. So, as I said, there's 4 different volumes here, and this is very much a labor of love that Matthew's made completely, in a completely indie style. As you can see, it's got some pretty good artwork in it. And Barrows and Borderlands is described here as a tabletop fantasy adventure game in the lines of countless others. But I don't think that is exactly an accurate or an adequate description, because obviously this system is weirder than the standard, and it is for that effect more interesting, right? Because there's tons of clones, including clones of old D&D, of original D&D rather. This is not quite that, but it is a lot of that, but it's not just that, so that makes it, to me, much more cool, right? So it comes with the, the common game terms and all of that, and the basic system. If you are familiar with original D&D, you are basically familiar with the system. The interesting part is the concept of the setting, right? So it's a dying earth type of setting. It goes very hard with the sort of the dying earth aesthetic. Ancestors ruled vast empires, but now ruins dot landscapes too perilous to reclaim. And it's a world where village priests nail iron above their doors while reciting incantations half remembered from older, wiser times. So it's a world that is in steep decline. You get the impression, similar to Jack Vance, right, that it's a very old and dying world now. The Maloresian Empire stands proud and terrible, its power built on smoking steel and ancient faith, the towers of weathered stone and marble. The Church of Mendorf's witch hunter stalk both street and countryside. They seek those desperate or mad enough to dabble in forbidden arts. Even the smallest working of true magic can draw the attention of things left undisturbed. But the Empire's might proves insufficient. In the ruined Senate Hall, 12 noble lords lie dead, their corpses twisted by powers that radiate malevolent energy even now. It's some even whisper of intervention from Erden, the dark realm where the sorcerer king broods in his tower of black stone, right? So this is where you're getting an idea from this of what the style of the setting is, right? There's these mentions of things that they're not completely explained here, right? Like the halls of Maloresian cities and Erden catacombs, and beyond the free trade nations, there's a land of intrigue. Maybe you've heard tales of the Osmelian blind fighters dancing in their battle waters that flood the fields of war. Yeah, that sort of stuff is very evocative, right? And then the question becomes how much of that holds up to that actually emulating that in actual play, right? I could continue with all this, but let's get to, here again, the Maloresian Empire, Erden. So these are the basic territories of the setting. And men still venture into the waste, seeking power or knowledge, or merely escape from the church's iron laws. Some return changed, most don't return at all. The Senate Hall is in ruins. The cult of Star grows bolder, transformed followers moving openly through borders towns. We trust in faith, but I've read text older than the Empire itself, and I know better. The stars are watching, waiting, and they will remember when this world was theirs. So here we get to the first actual part of the mechanics, let's say, that you can select for your race, and this is where you're getting outside of the standard, right? You got your pure strain humans, kobolds, starborn, who are living fragments of fallen stars, green skulls, creatures of radiation and undeath, mutants, wide variety of mutants, even more if you get the Gods of Fantasy companion to go with it, halflings, dwarves, and mycelians, which are fungus men, and finally fairies. There are plenty of other creatures in the Borderlands, so it's entirely possible that in your campaign, players may wish to play a multitude of beings. Consult to the referee if this is possible within their rulings. If you have the Gods of Fantasy companion, you can also use the weird race generator to give you even more races for your Barrows and Borderlands game. So here we have a list of the different deities of the world, and they're all, very much, again, in the Gonzo style, right, with this kind of either weird or sinister or both element to them. And there we go. Creating a character, right? You roll 3d6 in order, choose the race, pick a class, hit points. None of that is very unusual. You determine psychic potential. That's a little bit different, right? So there is for psychics and sorcerers, you can name your you determine the psychic potential, you can name your character, there's prompts and so on and so forth. Ability scores. So you'll notice that you have the standard ability scores plus one extra called Radiation Resist, which is how much immunity you have to the warped energy and corruption that bleeds through this world. You are offered a few, what we would call pussy methods of generating character stats. Basically, the skill system amounts to ability checks, right? So you roll a d20 and you have to get equal or less than your ability score. Here we have the race details. So humans get +1 to charisma, +1 to constitution. They roll with the best of 2 dice for hit points. Human parties act first for initiative. They have higher loyalty for the retainers. Then you got kobolds. Kobolds can move double when unarmed and on all fours. Starborn, they have infravision. They're immune to ghoul paralysis, +1 to reaction rolls. Halflings, small weapon zoning, blah, blah, blah. That's basically the same as a normal halfling. Dwarf, small and medium weapons only. Start with a 2 and 6 of architecture, 2 and 6 of search, and 2 and 6 of hear noises. They have an infravision range of 60. Mycelians, they get a -1 armor class if they're in bright light, and they're only in half movement. They don't need to sleep. They only need moist dirt for 8 hours a day. Mutants, roll 1 mutation found in the Gamma class. Fairies have +2 armor class against large opponents. They can fly rate of 1 turn per level and then must rest for a turn. They take +1 damage from iron. They can maintain a size of 1 foot tall or 6 feet tall, and it takes 1 turn to change sizes. Green skulls, immune to radiation, do not need sleep, start with a 2 and 6 chance of a human disguise from a fresh dead body. And then you get to the ability score modifiers. This is all pretty, like the actual mechanics are all very common to D&D, except for magic, which we'll get to in a bit. You got your fighting man, as you can see, an armor class, Thaco saving throw. They get weapon mastery. The magic user has spell casting. They cast spells by pulling on the radioactive chaos of the Borderlands. And the spell system is different, as I said. Then you have clerics. Clerics also get their spells from and powers from a service to a deity. They have turn undead. There's a turn undead charge. Then you have a half-caster, which is a class that blends martial prowess with arcane talent. So they do a bit of both. They have weapon mastery and spell casting. Neither as good as the regular class, but they get to do both. Psychics, born with strange forces, they get psychic powers and psionic abilities. You've got the thief, who gets a variety of thief skills that are also like a 1 to whatever in 6 chance, right? So a 6 in 6 means that they will succeed all the time unless they get a double 6. Like they roll, if you have a 6 in a skill, you roll, and if you roll it again, if you roll it and you get a 6, and then you roll it again and you get another 6, you fail, but otherwise you always succeed, which is pretty good, I guess. Thief skill descriptions, you'll find most of these are pretty standard: architecture, backstab, bushcraft, open lock, sweet scroll, use wand. The Gamma is a hyper mutant, basically a mutant that is more advanced in their mutation, and they have gamma mutation generation, which allows them at the start to have 1d6 plus 1 physical mutations, and you roll on the table to see what they get. So some of these mutations are obviously going to be better than others, but that's kind of the way it goes. And those are the classes. Next, you generate your birth sign and your backstory, which allows social class rolls. You get some basic skills for your social class and origins. languages, radiation resistance checks that determine what the effects of radiation are. Radiation can be fatal. It can kill you, but it can also mutate you. And it's generally a dangerous thing to encounter along the path, so to say. You've got your melee weapons, your armor. This is all equipment. Then you get to the combat overview. Once again, mostly, like, there's some variation, but mostly this is OSR standard in terms of like what you do in combat. It's not there isn't anything that's going to be too out of the ordinary, even if it adds a few things like, shield bashing and stuff like that. Archery, melee, firearms, because of course there are firearms. Poisons, grappling, infravision, death and healing. Critical hits. If you get a natural 20 on a d20 attack, then it's an automatic hit, and you roll a d6 on the table to determine how much extra damage you deal. The multiple damage is done by multiplying the number of dice itself, not the modifiers. The referee may decide to allow this to spell rolls made at a 12, though this is cautioned against. All right. So this is the first section. So basically, this is the first book. It's the book of character creation. But as you can see, in here you get the model of... And anyways, all four of the books come together, but I just don't want to do them all at once because that would make for a very long video, and I suspect that it's better to do it one book at a time, right? So this is the first volume, Men and Mutants, of Barrows and Borderlands, and you can see the tantalizing element of the weirdness factor, the kind of post-apocalyptic sort of stuff, fantasy post-apocalyptic, you could say, the gonzo-ness of it. It's something that's very appealing to me. I suspect it will be very appealing to a lot of OSR gamers. I mean, it already has been. It's been a big success. If you haven't heard about this until now, then here you are, and I will try to put a link to where you can get it. In my opinion, I think that I will spoiler that I'm very positive about the rest of the product. There are obviously some things that I might have done differently, but not to say that the way that they're done is wrong. And there might be some other criticisms that might be coming up in the future episodes. This is the first book, and so it's very basic in the sense that it's talking about character creation. But even there, you see that there's some really cool stuff that you could even take and use in other OSR games, right? That is the great killer app of the OSR, is that we could take anything from any of these books and put them in other games, or put other games into them, or whatever, and the compatibility stands, right? So that's the great advantage of the OSR. And Barrows and Borderlands is, as far as I'm concerned, out of like new editions that are not books of mine, at least, it is the coolest one I've seen this year so far that I've actually gotten my hands on, anyways. And so that's a big compliment. And yeah, I would definitely recommend it especially if this style appeals to you. Obviously, if you don't like kind of science fantasy stuff or Dying Earth type stuff, it might not be up your alley, right? But if those things are interesting to you, and you like the old school aesthetic that you see presented in the book, then you're probably really going to like Barrows and Borderlands. I guess that's everything for today. If you like this video, please hit the like button, share the video if you can to where people will see it. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and check out Barrows and Borderlands, which will be in the link in the description, and also in the description are links to all of my products. The latest current issue of the of the Pundit Files is number 38, which is Races and Regions of the Galaxy for Sons of Heaven, my sci-fi setting. I'm currently talking about the possibility with the publisher of putting all that together into a Sons of Heaven book that will be. If it happens, it'll still be months before it happens, right? But just so you guys know, if you're if you've liked the Sons of Heaven material in the Pundit Files. And if you don't, if you're not a sci-fi guy, there's tons of non-sci-fi stuff, of historical authentic stuff, of gonzo stuff, of generic stuff you can use in your D&D game in the Pundit Files, which are available only at the Red Room store, and all of them only cost $3.50. So if you've got $3.50, get over to the Red Room store and buy yourself an issue of the Pundit Files. And for everywhere else, for every other product of mine, you pretty much go to drive-through and you'll find it there. And you will not regret any of it, I hope. That's everything for today. Currently smoking. This is a Neerup Cuddy plus Argento Roots.